What's going on there, folks? Good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this finally Friday. Made it through the work week. It is September 29th, 2023, about 11:55 a.m. here, California time. So technically still morning out here along the west coast, where we do have some rain coming in a little bit later throughout the day today. Although 1.9 right now, the latest earthquake showing up here into the California region. A handful of earthquakes here in the last 24 hours or so. And a little bit of movement up around my neck of the woods here outside of Chico, getting in on some activity. Although this is relatively deep, not felt by folks out here underneath the Gridley area. This is, of course, the Sacramento Valley. And this deeper activity does happen occasionally out here underneath the valley. No major movement to report here across Northern California or the Pacific Northwest for now. Handful of smaller quakes as well throughout Central and Southern California. Looks about the same as what we've seen last night. No major elevated uptick. Did see a little bit of newer movement out here around the Yucca Valley area of Southern California along this interchange of many different fault systems. That's got to be a sign there of some stress building up amongst these numerous faults out here. Nothing big, just 1.8, 2.2, and it looks like another smaller microquake out there since about midnight or so. Also the Elsinore fault over here off 76, it looks like, in the mountainous range. A couple ones and even a 2-pointer. All right, looking at the big scale model here of the Earth. Well, getting that cluster of activity once again here. Look at this, pretty much equal activity, although some of these are larger magnitudes here. Around the Solomon Sea, where we've been kind of seeing an earthquake swarm here take place in this area. And the latest one shows earthquake into the Solomon Sea off of the plate boundary here. So we know strain is quite high in this area. I'm trying to think if we've seen Solomon Islands fill in over the last week. We really haven't. We've seen a 6-pointer down here in Vanuatu area. That's a 6.1 yesterday, with some earthquake activity earlier in the week near the Santa Cruz Islands and Solomon Islands. But we're really seeing some deep, large-scale movement take place here across the Tonga Trench. Now skipping over this little area of the plate boundary. Yes, Vanuatu got hit, but it seems like we're stuck here with terms of this earthquake swarming taking place. Now, there's a couple different options here that will fill in. We could see that activity continue here throughout the Solomon Sea for a little bit, or we could see some larger-scale movement make its way across the western areas of the plate boundary. The Java Trench here has been really quiet over the last week. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity. There's going to be some smaller quakes here, as shown on the Earthquake 3D globe. But really, it's somewhat quiet here in this area. So it looks like strain may be building and working its way across this area of the plate boundary. But keep an eye. I always like to look at the middle point out here in terms of this bouncing back and forth. Kind of like a, well, I don't know how to compare it to, but you'll see it a lot out here, and I will chat about it when I see it pop up. The deeper scale movement quakes, skipping over a good section of the plate boundary. But this filled in. Remember, this filled in yesterday, but we're still seeing that today. So that leads me to believe here that one of these areas are going to see a larger quake within this zone of that bouncing back and forth activity. I'm thinking maybe around the Solomon Islands here within this section of the plate boundary. So keep an eye on that. See how it plays out. 4.8 right now, Volcano Islands, Japan. 59 kilometers deep. Looks like that's in the portion of the northern Mariana Trench. Further up north into Japan, got some earthquake activity just after midnight. A couple fours hanging out up there across the Japan Trench. Again, though, not a whole lot of westward pressure movement across the Java Trench. Alaska area. Handful of earthquakes here across the Aleutian Trench and up into the Cook Inlet area of Alaska. Beautiful area. I'm sure it's beautiful this time of year, any time of year up there. Latest earthquake, though, shows a 1.3 up around the Brooks Range here, or the Alaska Range, excuse me. Brooks Range a little bit further up north. But typical, right? Across this plate boundary, always seeing microquake activity. Similar to California, right? Along any major plate boundary. And the USGS had an option here in the settings to include all of these smaller magnitudes worldwide, it would probably look pretty clustered. You know, the EMSC model does have it on occasion, and that's why we see that a lot here on the globe, because the EMSC data is also included on the data here that I run on the live stream. This earthquake 3D globe shows USGS and EMSC data. New Zealand, what do we got down here? Looks like a couple threes popping off. Let's go ahead and check them out real quick before I get too sidetracked on what I'm wanting to chat about. I'll pull this up here. 6 hours ago, reported 3.1 outside of Gisborne, North Island. 3.4 from yesterday. Looks like down here, that's going to be that, well, that's that 6-pointer there from, it's been about a week now, over a week. Still seeing some aftershock activity in that area. Look at the earthquake drums here, the seismograph stations there across New Zealand. We'll show some of that earthquake activity. 3-pointer and some, looks like some smaller quakes in there as well. The Rata Peaks area here is where that 6-pointer struck over a week ago. Looks like aftershock activity continued last night, but we're taking a nosedive here today as far as lack of aftershock activity. So things calming down across that area for now. All right, what else we got here? Hawaii, the Big Island, still seeing some movement out here, mostly around the Pahala area. No major changes there across the Kilauea or the Mauna Loa volcano. A quick glance at some of these seismograph stations and instruments out here on the Big Island. We'll just give a quick glance at it, see if we got any major tilt going on. The tilt meters here, station I use is the UWE. Looks like we're taking a nosedive here in inflationary tilt, and that's pretty good nosedive here over the past, this is the past 2 days, so technically since about yesterday, seen that nosediving. The overall trend since the eruption, you know, it only lasted for a little while. We're starting to see a little inflation. That's obvious right here on the graph, but a more downward trend now in the last day. Not a whole lot of activity stirring up out here. There's always going to be some smoke, some volcanic gases coming up there. There's still, you know, some hot surface, or areas underneath the surface are still pretty hot. So the volcanic gases are going to continue to find their way up through the cracks there in the lava lake region, but no visible lava. And we'll just continue to watch that, though. All right, where'd my USGS map go? I got rid of it. See if anything else is going on here across the area. One earthquake up in northern Iran, 4.4. That one coming in earlier this morning, it looks like, about 5 o'clock or so. Mediterranean region, 2s and 3s, very typical here across this plate boundary. Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet, not a whole lot going on. There's South America with a handful of quakes out there, 4s and 3s. Good cluster across the Middle America Trench. Quite a few 3s and 4s in there. There's a 4.9 inland away from, is that from yesterday? Let me see here. I think we had a little earthquake up there. When was this? Was this yesterday? Yeah, it was a couple days ago. 4.8. I'm not for sure why that's still showing up here on the USGS. Well, maybe this is the EMSC model. Let me see here. It is. But I think that's an older quake, unless we've seen another one pop off here in the last 24 hours. Let me double check here and see what's going on. 4.9 Bering Sea. So this looks like a recent earthquake. USGS not picking up on that yet. So that would make the second earthquake in that area in the last week. A little bit of things stirring up there across the area of the Bering Sea. All right, space weather activity. See what we have here. Looks like we got a little bit of flaring going on currently. Nothing major, but we are peaking up there into the C flare category. Looks like maybe a C 3.2 or so there on the graph. 3.1. A little bit of global delayer absorption blackout on the short wave stations there, high frequency and low navigation, or low frequency navigation systems. But this ain't a big deal at all. Very common there with C flares centered over the Central East Pacific out there. Looks like that's coming from, let's see where that's coming from here real quick with the UV filter. Right here, potentially. Looks like this area is peeking out a little bit. Notice that magnetic arch. Pretty cool looking, and a bright feature within that flare. Looks like we got some active regions here across the eastern limb to keep an eye on. Let me check out the magnetogram, see if we can see anything. This is last night's image, and the area that's currently flaring is, I think it's that one that I said to keep an eye on if I had to pick one, down here at 3450. Let's see what we got. It's got to be coming from this sunspot. It almost looks so. Hold on a second. Let me go back here to the space weather. It looks like it may be coming from the sunspot that's just to the side of this one. Right in here. This does not look very complex, but it's shooting off a C flare. All other sunspots, for the most part, that are facing Earth are fairly calm. This one looks like it has grown slightly with a couple different magnetic cores here. And the eastern limb of the sun, that's where all these bright features are showing up on this model. We'll have to watch that in the coming days as they rotate further into the Earth direction. No major CMEs, no major expected auroras. Did see a little bit of elevated conditions last night there, peeking up into the KP index of 4, surprisingly. But yeah, that's about it for solar weather activity. No major coronal holes are facing us. Things are just kind of somewhat neutral there on the sun currently. Storm Prediction Center, not a whole lot going on as far as severe weather goes today. 5% chance for some wind and some hail up there across portions of Minnesota and maybe extreme northeast Nebraska here. That's about it. Thunderstorm activity definitely active throughout the day today, including areas around my neck of the woods here later tonight. Got a chance of thunderstorms coming in from this low pressure system. And it looks like we may see a little bit of rain out here. Let me bring up this mesoscale. And we'll check out this low pressure spinning off the coast. It's going to work its way down over Northern California, stirring up some rain and some potential thunderstorms throughout the evening. I don't think we're going to see too much down here around the Chico area. Most of it's going to be around Redding. But this weather model is showing what looks like some thunderstorms popping up late overnight time frame. So we'll have to continue to watch that. Either way, I wouldn't keep your windows down and cover up stuff if you don't want it to get wet. But it looks like we will have a few showers here, specifically Northern California and the northern edge of the Sacramento Valley a little bit later this evening. So we'll watch for that. That's going to bring some cooler temperatures for sure. And let's see, what do we got? 76 right now outside in my backyard. Not really expecting any major heat spells coming up. We are looking at, where the windy map here go. What did I do with it? Did I make it disappear? Oh, there it is, down here a little bit further. I keep adding bookmarks, so it keeps scooting down further. Let's see here. Where's our temperature real quick? Here's our temperature. Of course, still continuing to cook out there in the southern plains and into portions of the Midwest. That's going to change here. As we put this into motion, we'll be able to see the low pressure system out here. It's a little bit too slow, so let's go over the next couple days here, Sunday or so. Yeah, it still looks like it's pretty warm out there across that area of the country. But I know eventually a cool down is coming. You can kind of see it between Monday and Tuesday. Look at that. There's Monday, Tuesday. You got this cooler air coming down, bringing some stormy conditions. You got the cooler, drier air intermixing with the warm moisture. That's going to cause some thunderstorms, severe weather potential as well. But notice that cool air settling back behind here, and things starting to warm up here across the West Coast. Low 90s. I mean, I guess I can handle that. I'm going to have to, right? I can't really change the weather, whether I want to or not. But yeah, look at that. Some much cooler temperatures coming in. Daytime highs in the upper 40s and low 50s here across a good portion the northern plains. And this next coming weekend looks like that's going to continue for a little bit. Nice and cool out there across that area. Sunday, let's see, well, still looks like the heat wants to hang out here across Northern California and the West Coast. Cooler out here, warmer out in the west. When it's cooler out here, it's warmer out in the east. Just how it goes. But overall trend here, look at that. We got a lot of cooler air up here wanting to work its way down. And check out the long-term numerical models out here across the globe. We'll go North America here and see if this has changed overnight. There's our trough out here along the west coast for now. And we'll put this thing into motion and see what we got. Cooler air coming down into the east over here. Troughing, goodness, that's not a good pattern up here. It's a pretty large high pressure system up here off into the Gulf of Alaska. Looks like that's going to hang around for a little bit. That's going to be replaced by a deep troughing here a little bit later into October. So we'll just kind of continue to watch this and see how this prevails, see how it plays out. I'm ready for some cooler weather, though. I think we all are. All right, folks, we'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on this evening. Again, I think we need to watch, this area in between. Yes, we did see that 6.1 in the Vanuatu area here yesterday. But I don't know. I think X marks the spot still for some further activity with this type of movement going on. We'll keep an eye on it throughout the day today. Live seismograph stations look pretty quiet for now. Not a whole lot going on. I'm going to keep that right about here for now, and then I'll switch it up. I occasionally change up these stations. This Japan station right here is just not working all that good, so I'll fix that a little bit later. But I do want to keep New Zealand in here. That's going to be this station right here. But also Northern California. Petrolia, a little spike of an earthquake up there right now. Very small one, though. All right, we'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on this evening, folks. Enjoy your Friday, and stay safe out there, and start of the weekend. Take care.